How's the weekend going so far?
How was the phone box then? Nice and cleanly painted and everything. You hugged it, yeah. You have to stroke it.
Just shows you the power of public pressure you can put on people to get these things done. I saw a thing on the website. Who's been conducting this campaign? That's the most important. Oh, right. Nice work, fella. I died of laughter when I saw a thing in the local paper with Councillor Ellis, and he's going right at the bottom. It says, oh yes, when I was younger, I was a big fan of the man. I'm thinking, how on earth did you want me to fit the flies? How much younger were you when you were into the younger life?
Andy, 8:20 tomorrow morning, Radio Merseyside.
Oh, is it in the morning?
It's been put on, yeah.
Radio Merseyside, yeah?
Radio Merseyside.
You won't be able to get that then, will you? So we won't know. Well, I know you've already bombarded me with questions, so everybody wants to ask questions. I'm going to sit down for this last one. Stuart, go see these works, okay?
No idea what it's about.
They are eating.
You get Chelsea now.
Yeah, well, I said let's do some questions and some talking first, and then we'll make sure everybody gets there. It is excellent. I don't know is the simple answer, but there's been talk about this Unreleased. There is a collection of songs. That one is probably the most kind of poppy, complete one. But some of the others are pretty good. I think the thing is, when Paul and I were talking about this today, it's we're not sure whether to do something that is just all the old stuff. Because part of me feels like, well, there's a couple of things I wouldn't mind doing that are actually fresh. But then it's a question of, do you put new stuff and old stuff on one album? Is that going to be a bit of a sort of strange combination? Yeah, but whether we've got the inclination and desire at the time to actually do a completely new thing, I don't know. But again, we were talking today and we were saying, if we are going to do something, we would definitely do it together. And it would probably have to be sometime in the next couple of years, because otherwise there's the opportunity, I think, in the kind of the 80s electro.
I think the climate is kind of right now.
Even the clubs advert showed that.
Yeah. I keep getting sent stuff by record companies now saying this band is really influenced by OMD. Would you be interested in producing it? Which is like, oh god. But I run this place and I've got my own acts that I'm developing, which is quite time consuming. But more than I ever before, I'm actually thinking that it would be interesting to do something. And if I did, and certainly if OMD performed, it would certainly be at least me and Paul. I don't know whether that.
So does Mel do it? I don't know what it is, but I had Martin to do the 1-2 show as well. And I was saying this yesterday, that he was kind of wanting to do it, but I didn't give him enough notice. There's nothing that was saxophone.
I don't think he's picked up the paintbrush. It's funny actually, I can see Martin quite regularly because his eldest goes to the same school as my youngest. They're in the same class actually.
Oh, funny.
Any more for any more?
Andy, do you take it as a compliment when people send you their tapes and demos and say that we were influenced by your work in the 80s? Do you take that as a compliment, or do you think they just get your own ideas came to you, or what?
No, I take it as a compliment. The funny thing is in the 90s was that there's nothing more out of fashion than the previous decade, so the 80s was pretty kind of considered to be passé, but of course enough time has passed now that you know, people are prepared to actually stick up for what was done in the 80s now. And
just to follow on to that, do you hear things and think to yourself, God, I wish we did that?
Well, current music. I must admit, I'm starting to like things more now than I have done for a while. I mean, I particularly like bands like Franz Ferdinand. I think I like because it's nice to actually see a band that isn't afraid to kind of wear its intelligence and its artistic influences kind of on its, you know, sleeve, be they, you know, record sleeve or whatever. I mean, they're doing the kind of complete visual, musical, video package that, you know, we and others of our generation would do with the help of people like Peter Saville and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of quite I think, you know, that's quite good, and I mean, I like the bravery. But yeah, it's, you know, that kind of sound has always been a sound that I like, and it's quite exciting to come back into fashion. Really.
You miss doing live performances?
Yes and no. I don't go to that many gigs now of my contemporaries because I find that if I go and see somebody from our generation, I'm standing there thinking, I wish I was on the stage, not watching it. You know? But that's usually the only time I think about it. I don't miss the nerves. I always used to get nervous. I don't miss the
adrenaline
all the work. Yeah, I mean, I tell you what made my stomach misses the exercise. I like the physical thing of actually being on stage and being exhausted and coming off stage and feeling like, wow, you know, it's. Well, I used to get tired. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. So, you know, I mean, the thing I miss most about touring is actually the travel. I really used to enjoy the opportunity. I mean, we were two, you know, very ordinary kids from a suburb of Liverpool, and we hadn't really been anywhere until we were in the band. And then, you know, we had the opportunity to go all around the world. It was just
What was your favourite location? What was your favourite place you visited?
So many, really. I thought New Zealand was brilliant. Japan was fantastic.
You never been to Guernsey?
No. Well, no, I never got down there, unfortunately. I do apologise for that. But I mean, it's funny really because you've got two answers to that. There's the one is where do you most like playing live? And what was the nicest place to be? I mean, to be honest, sometimes you could have been in the best place in the world, but you'd be 15 minutes into a gig and left, and it was like, did you say anything?
Yeah, you saw the backstage area and the hotels.
But
was it like that a lot of the time, rushing about?
Mostly, yeah, mostly it was. I mean, there were great opportunities when you had a day off in New York or a day off in Hong Kong or something, just had a day off in the place. But most of the time we were busy working. I mean, particularly when we were touring America, you'd come off stage, get in the bus, and it'd be dark, and you'd be driving 500 miles, and you'd wake up outside or inside the next venue, and do it all again. So that was a bit kind of weird. But
your day off would be 1,000-mile drive across the country to the next area that you were playing. So
that's why we ended up all hating each other. There was no escape, stuck in a ringing bus performance.
The bus that had coffins was there.
And do you still dance?
I don't do a lot of it now. I was joking with the lady who came from Radio Merseyside to talk to you about the telephone box was here as well today. And, she was asking me about it and saying, well, Mick Jagger can still do it. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't think it's particularly cool to be hurling yourself around with it would be good. I'm sure somebody's got some video footage I could look at. But I mean, I don't know, because I've always thought it would be undignified to throw yourself around stage at a certain age. But I mean, Paul's been on stage more recently than I have, and he said it is a bit like riding a bike. As soon as you get back out there, you just do what you used to do.
Because you've done it so many times.
You know.
I just can't see you doing Maid of Honor or standing still.
No, I think I can see me at the end of it needing an ambulance. These days, but it's,
cute giving that now.
yeah, I don't know how I deal with that, because I do think it wouldn't be very cool to throw yourself around like that. But then again,
What happens at the moment?
yeah, who knows?
Have you decided on if you're going to write stuff again, or what methods you're going to use, whether you're going to go back to your old days of ripping track up and layering it, or sitting next to the piano and jamming it? Or...
We haven't really got that far into discussing music. I mean, we've really only this morning been talking about just the possibility of playing live again. Right, I mean, I think if there was to be some new OMD material written new, then it would make sense for us to write it together. But it's been a while. I mean, the last time we wrote together was over 10 years ago in Los Angeles, where we did a lot of work together in the West Line. I think it would be quite interesting. I mean, I can't speak for Paul, but I mean, when I finally finished it in whenever it was end of '96, I had to get things out of my system. You know, I had to just leave it and go and do something else and to start again. And I think, you know, enough time has passed now. I've done enough things. I certainly, I'm not against the idea.
You know what Paul was for you now? Said he wouldn't have ordered it Christmas. So did you ever get out of it?
What, the here and now talk? I think that the more I talked to people, the more I found out about it. The more I just thought, it would be weird. I mean, just the idea of, I think the thing that would frighten me most is not having the control over the kind of the musical directing and the sound sourcing and everything. You're just walking in, doing a day's rehearsal and saying, well, oh Christ, is that what it's got to sound like? You know, whereas normally, you know, you're sampling and putting it all together and checking your sounds and rehearsing and fine-tuning it, and you know what all the parts are going to sound like. To just walk out in front of a band that had just played with Howard Jones and is just about to play with Kim Wilde or something else, you know.
It's a little bit like playing to karaoke.
Well, it's also quite successful in there. We got back together and they did. The two of them did excellent, and they went through.
It's hard, I mean, I have to be honest. It's very easy to do those things because there's a lot of bands and they can guarantee a sellout in an arena, which makes sense. To just go on the road as OMD, I mean, obviously there's people like yourselves who would be very interested, but I think we would probably be quite nervous as to just how many dates you can sell out. And it might be better to go and do a package, but not a here and now thing. Maybe go out with a couple of other groups that do it, you know, so that you do it properly. You're in control of it. Well, I mean, you know, the thing for me is that I would prefer to sort of have some controlling influence over the sound, but prefer to abdicate all responsibility for all the hard work to somebody like Paul. Make it sound great, and I'll turn up and tell you if I think it's all right in 4 weeks' time, you know. Because, you know, all I've got to do is know how to play the bass again.
When was the last time you played the bass?
Well, actually, that Sister Mary Gabriel, or Sister Mary Says, I actually played bass on that. I had to read, but some of that. Yeah, can't you tell? Well, I've got Pro Tools to edit on now, you know, it's not just live. But you know, that was the last time I played bass. Because it was just I had to do some reworking on that track. That's not completely just the original demo. Some of that had to be redone.
Well, I thought having everyone in for it was a fantastic track.
Yeah.
Universal outtake.
No, it's actually an outtake of two different eras. The main synth melody was from 1981, and it was decided, I think you forgot actually, it was decided at the time, I don't know whether by me or Paul above this, that the whole thing, the 4-chord sequence and the melody was far too similar to the other game. But in 93, 94, I dusted it down again because I had this lyrical idea about this Sister Mary Gabriel Romanian nun who was and in fact, Paul and I worked on it briefly in America, trying to make it still in 94 not sound like 1981, because in 94 there was nothing more out of fashion than it was from 1981, and we still couldn't get it to work. But of course now in 2005, sounding like 1981 isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It's that familiarity, but it's new at the same time. It's like it's better than a No Game remix. I think that was probably the reaction.
Yeah.
It got like it was familiar, but it was new at the same time. It was
The new tune.
yeah. When it got too slow, top one.
Not laugh and wet themselves, just smile.
Another era to now see unreleased material.
Well, I say that the dilemma is that I was prepared to get that out sometime this year, but now there's this sort of spanner in the works, possibly, about the fact that I might be thinking about doing some new material to it, which I say calls this into question about, do you want an album that's kind of half old unreleased and hardly new?
You too.
I mean, the problem for me is to say I've got 5 projects in various stages of development, which I really, some of which I've been working on for 2 or 3 years. I've got to see.
And then just want to
I think if we can get through some of them, and if I can just get a couple of my things moved forward and not be taking up so much of my time, then I'll have to look. But again, Paul and I were saying earlier today in the car together that if we're going to do something, it's got to be done properly. We don't want some half-arsed thing. You come back after all this time and you go down and what wants to you shouldn't have bothered, So it's that's
Does that mean a big record label or not?
Well, I think the obvious label would probably be somebody like Sanctuary, who specialise in picking up old girls like this and trying to squeeze a few more sales out of them. So I think that would probably be a logical place to go, because even for the demos, even for the unreleased stuff, Virgin don't own it. So I don't see why I should do it through Virgin and take it somewhere else and start again.
This was up for that.
I must admit, unreleased stuff aside, Virgin desperately want to do a DVD and they want to do this Dazzle Ships remaster. And I've been trying to contact the guy at Catalogue Sales now for the last 4 months, and occasionally get an email going, oh yeah, sorry, I knew there was something I was supposed to do. I'm just like, well, you really want to do the So it's there may still be some residual hassle, because I still have an ongoing legal dispute with Virgin over Kit, which was just about to get resolved and then something else came up. So there may still be a bit like, let's get that resolved.
And if you do stuff new stuff, are you looking to make that? Is that going to be commercial, or is it just you getting music out? Are you interested in commercial success now?
I think if you want to do something, you'd like to do it the best, the biggest, and the most successful you can. But whether doing some new material now would really set the chart on fire.
The thing is, you don't need to do it now. You don't need to sell as many now to get to the top of the charts, do you? When these days, 20,000 gets you to #1.
Well, that's true. That's true. I suppose. What number?
Well, I think you never sort of do an album thinking, oh, I don't want it to be successful. You do an album. Firstly, you do an album because you love what you're doing and you're enjoying the record and you're putting out an album you believe in. And then after that, you hope it's as successful as it can possibly be. And it's a very sort of volatile market at the moment. You don't quite know what your radio is trying to do. And they want to expect it. And then only you can want to try to do it.
that to as well. So if a single comes out one thing or something like
It's a good marketing policy to load it all into 1 week. And I say now, you could get in the top 10 of the cinema now with less than 10,000 sales. So it's quite remarkable. But yeah, I agree with Paul. I think if you did something, you would like it to be as successful as possible. I think that was one of the things that why I packed in doing OMD at the end of '96 was that, you know, relative to the previous success we've had, I just didn't want to be sort of flogging a dead horse. I didn't want to be playing to smaller and smaller audiences and not getting in the chart, and you know, I just didn't seem like something that it didn't seem worth it anymore. But it was just a purely relative thing. You know, when you're accustomed to selling hundreds of thousands and millions and playing to big gigs, and then you find yourself on a much smaller scale, the initial reaction is to feel like, oh, you know, I don't like this. But then if you stop it and you go away and you sort of forget what you used to do, then the idea of coming back and, you know, maybe doing something on a smaller scale just because you want to do it is more acceptable. It's a mental process. It's just getting your head to that place, you know.
You said that, look, you sort of gave up because of everything that was happening around the Universal time and everything, and you mentioned in the event magazines that you may have had technical, well, it's not one of your favourite albums now, it's not one that you go back to. I have to be honest, it's now in time not one of my favourites. What do you think of the album now? I mean, should you start the electro pop? Would you think?
Yeah, possibly, but I don't think that would have been any more commercially successful at the time. But yeah, I think that was possibly a classic example of the canon mistakes we made in the sort of mid-late 80s when we were being a little bit too conscious of what might sell, what was going to be acceptable in the current climate, rather than expecting. Yeah, you know, in the mid-90s, doing early 80s electronic music was, you know, really out of fashion. So the idea of doing something really electronic just seemed to be kind of not a very good idea. But you know, trying to sound like kind of organic and a bit poppy and a bit, you know, rock. Now I look back, some of the songs are very good, but I think stylistically possibly I shouldn't have done it. But you know, you do things for different reasons at different times, and it's only in hindsight you have this wonderful benefit of saying, oh well, I should have done this, I should have done that, and maybe people would have thought this, and you know, so you know, how many times do I need to learn that lesson? I don't know. You know, I mean, when I did Sugar Tax, I just did what the hell I felt like doing, and it was really successful. And then, you know, the next two albums didn't do that well. I think that, you know, what we did at the early albums of our career and what we did, you know, on the last few albums at the end towards the end of the 90s, you know, we weren't doing it because we felt like doing it. Some of the things we were doing stylistically because we were kind of thinking, oh, you know, how's this going to fit in with the market?
So I remember reading in an OMD newsletter the version which is still in that we recorded just around the time of Liberator.
Yeah.
Is that one of your unreleased tracks that you put out, or not? Yeah, no, that's that version.
Well, I mean, that song went through lots of different versions. There was a reggae version of it. Which, yeah, but you know, you've heard the version with all the strings on it, but you know, that's the version that got released. The other, I mean, to me, that was the weird version because I was used to it as a reggae song for about 5 years, you know, and something else before that, you know. So it's that's one of the weird things about, you know, stuff that is, you know, you've sat on that nobody's ever heard, and then you change it, and then they hear it and go, oh, that's what it was supposed to sound, wasn't it?
Did you know that when you delivered a tour, when you did the last one you did, that was going to be your last gig, or when they did the plans to tour with Universal?
Yeah, initially we were planning to tour, but obviously the lack of success in the sales department just, you know, I suspected Virgin wouldn't want to do another album, and I didn't want to do another album that wasn't going to be a priority. Because, you know, record companies, you know, they have to look at what they've got and they go, well, we're going to prioritise this one, put the money into it, it's going to sell, but, you know, the last LP out there. So yeah, and so I would have had to borrow money off them, which they probably wouldn't have given me to go out on tour, because tours almost invariably lose money. So it was just decided to not to do. And I've got to be honest. I mean, you missed out on the best of the South African tour.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of jealous about that.
One gig, 3 days off. Another gig, 4 days off. Gig safari, gig wine tour. Yeah. So that was, that was a nice way to go. So that was, yeah. I mean, that was the last time I played on stage, a proper gig. I did a funky little thing in Spain, sort of singing live, but with a band miming to a playback for a TV show. And then obviously the last time I really did anything, although we were miming, was when Paul did the Lottery thing in the 98. So he's been on stage more recently than me. So, yeah, but I know we were intending to sort of.
With the organic sound and everything, have you any plans to change the format of the band, more guitar and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well that might have been interesting actually, trying to work out how the hell we were going to do some of the Universal stuff, because it would have required more than just keyboards and drums. So maybe it was a good thing we didn't do it.
You surprised how so successful should have been that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really nervous. And when Ceylon 76 first came out, it was really, it started way down the charts and crept up slowly. I think people had very mixed feelings about it when that song. They were kind of like, what the hell is this? And then it kind of kept going up and up and up. And, that album sold almost exactly the same number as Orchestral Manoeuvres. And funny thing is, I remember going around to his house when Someone on the Seven Seas was at number 3, and he said, "Congratulations, but thank God it didn't get higher than Super."
What really impresses me was that all from Crystal Waters song, which didn't really much about me going la la dee la 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 la. And that's what pushed
Oh, you'll know me better than me. I don't remember what could have been. I mean, we could have had it. It could have been worse. I mean, it could have been like Vienna with Joe Dolce. What was the one?
Like film about growing up by yourself.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It was a bit weird. I mean, it's noticeable that I think on the Sugar Tax album, I think everything is credited to like OMD. I don't even know if I mentioned them by name. It's almost like I was hiding behind the corporate veneer. We're still OMD. Never noticed that Paul's not here. Yeah, so it was really weird, and obviously, I mean, I had a whole new band. And I mean, I didn't even have, on the Sugar Tax tour, I didn't even have Stuart Kershaw with me, who'd at least been writing with me for a period of time, because he had his own project, and so he was able to come and play drums on that. So yeah, it was strange. The only thing I would say is that the one thing I think I did right was going back to being a 4-piece. Nothing against the Weir Brothers. I think that all of the brass and the other things that we were introducing in the sort of mid to late 80s, I think was definitely part of the kind of going down the wrong road and sort of reeling it back to just being 2 keyboards, drums, and me with a bit of bass and singing. That I think was the right move.
I must admit that when I first got to Chill on 17, the first thing I looked for was Paul's number 1. I didn't know that he split up, so they were in big thing.
Yeah.
I
I mean, as weird as it was for me to do it without him, I mean, it must have been very strange for Paul to see OMD.
It was very strange to see OMD at the start when I had nothing to do with it. And I found out it's been all those years.
So have you seen the bootleg Sugar Tax post with both you and the...
Yeah.
Really?
I remember somebody saying that at the gigs going,
No, but it was also weird for me to go on stage with that Andy. I mean, all the gigs I've done, it still feels odd to go on to do a gig without Andy, because we've done so many gigs together, and we've gigs in the mid-70s together. And to go on stage without him still feels strange. Even listening to them turn around to the side, and then think, oh, Andy's not there.
that was so nice to hear you singing almost as well, you know, saying how much it meant to you singing it, but then obviously Strain's not hitting out to you.
Yeah.
But he's a cracking person down
Yeah.
there.
No, I haven't actually. I mean, I don't know whether I want to or not.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
But no, that was. I mean, it's you know, it's one of those weird things where you just have to get used to it. And I think that so much time has passed now since the original lineup split up. But it's just shared history. We've done all done this, and I've done that, and there's no respect that we've got. Done these things. It's not to me. It's funny today. Actually, I remember I was picking up at Mum's house. In fact, drove past you all outside the telephone. Stuart Craner saw me.
Didn't see it.
But, and I was talking to Paul's mum, and I was just saying, "Oh God, can you believe that it's actually 30 years now that we started writing songs at his mum's house in the back room?" Electricity must be 30 years old now. We wrote that on our first day, we wrote around. And his neighbours never complained, and even his mum didn't like it.
Does it make you feel old?
Yes, very. Well, I can remember that the chap who used to live next door, who I still know actually, but we were like 15, 16, and he was 40, and we thought he was terribly old. So now we're older than that, it makes you realise, oh my God, I was reminding Paul's mum of, the one occasion I will never forget when she was, because normally we rehearse on a Saturday afternoon and she was out working, so but for some reason she wasn't out, and she, I don't know what song we were working, I think it might have been we were just going round and round and round, and she finally knocked on and said, "It is a very nice song, do you know anyone?" So diplomatic and patient. She was. And actually somebody lives in your house. Who's an MMP? Yeah. And I met them recently. I've got an email from them. Not here, no. Oh, I actually met him at a gig last year. This guy who's like, "Oh, I live in Paul's house in Brentford." Really,
Yes.
Couldn't afford the telephone box, so
I met someone this afternoon who said he used to babysit them.
who was that?
A chap called Miles.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. On the corner. And I tried to teach him guitar as well.
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah, that's right. Miles, he lived on the corner to the left of where my house was.
He cut his brush down. He said, "Excuse me, you like to sort it out in the customer?" Guilty. Yeah. I know him,
It was a bit run down actually, my old house now. That's Miles there. And that across the road to the right, although it's now all gone, used to be the primary school where we first went to, which is now knocked down, and then we've got another one nearer to the beach. But School Lane Primary School. Yeah. The funny thing is that perhaps not unusually, nobody's actually asked me to get involved. So I just let them come. I mean, the funny thing about these city of cultures is, it seems to mean a lot to the people of Liverpool, but everybody else, what is the European City of Culture this year? Do you know? Anybody know which one is the European City of Culture this year? Cool. Yeah. It's like, it means a lot to the people in that city. Nobody else can toss. So no, I don't have any definite plans, but they ask me get our money back together.
Are you still involved with the Performing Arts School in Liverpool?
Lipper.
Yeah.
I employ quite a lot of their ex-students, but I kind of have a very mixed feeling about that place. I think that, its flagship course, the music course, I think is the hardest course to actually teach You know, you can't teach people for 3 years how to be a pop star. You know, it's like they can either write songs or they can't. But all the other courses are really great. I mean, I'm employing people on the management course and the sound technology course. So, yeah, I mean, I've made it. Finally got to meet Paul McCartney. But, yeah, so I have a kind of mixed vibe. My son did. Actually, my son got to meet him before I did. I got whisked away to be measured up for a pig in gown and cap. I turned around, and there's my 8-year-old. Paul McCartney was absolutely fantastic. Oh, yeah, my name's James, or that's my real first name, that's my dad's name. You know, Paul McCartney is an absolute professional. So, my son spent more than talking to me than I did.
Would you give us?
Yeah, I was thinking. My son spent more than talking to me than I did.
Would you give us?
Yeah, I was thinking more interested in talking to someone.
Did you see any Paul McCartney live weights?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I believe he was good actually. But, I think when he played in Liverpool, I was actually waiting.
Did you manage to get to see Kraftwerk with the recent world tour?
No, we were just talking about that as well, weren't we? He does, yeah. Well, he's not managing a bunch of bands, you see. He's just doing the logical thing. He's taking care of his own career instead of, you know, managing a bunch of ungrateful bloody teenagers. No, I've actually got quite a few bands and I've actually played Paul some tracks by a girl called Lucy Stiles, so I think it's going to be beautiful. Lucy Stiles, she's 18 now, I've known her since she was 15. She writes, sings, programs the whole lot herself, and she's going to make an album that is going to be like the must-have album of the year when it comes out. It's kind of somewhere between. It's not as boring as Dido, she's a bit more left field, but she has jazz influences of kind of Nora Jones, but it's all her own stuff. So watch out for that. That's going to make me more money than
really.
Andy, what music are you listening to? Yeah, you mentioned Bravery, but what else are you?
I actually bought an album last month, which is the first album I've listened to all the way through in 5 years. Gem. Although I've now started skipping 5 and 6. Yeah, that album's good. Bravery, I'm actually listening to more now than I've done for a while. Yeah,
My favourite album at the moment.
How do you come across the band? Just what you listen out? How do you come across the bands?
I've got a really good friend, it was there yesterday, a guy called Ian Hazelbrand, who does a lot of design, and he's just so switched on to music that he knows my taste completely. So he just kind of buys me things and sells them to me. So he just introduces me to really interesting music.
But don't you find though that sometimes you find listening to music is a bit of a busman's holiday, and you spend all day long listening, writing, programming, editing, blah blah blah, and the last thing you want to do is listen to any more music to relax. So
that's the thing.
I find I listen to music because I have to, because somebody says, oh, you need to listen to this, or what's #1 this week, or whatever, just to keep couch with it. It's part of your job, and it's sad that you do find that increasingly, you know, it's, it is.
Yeah, in the car I don't listen to very much music. But you do music every day. I think you want to do this better than live, yeah.
Actually, I think I must be getting on because I've started to now go back and buy my old records on CD. I won't do records. And my current favourite is actually Nightclubbing by Grace Jones. Because that was one of the albums in the early 80s that we always had on the tour bus when we were on the road. There was 4 or 5 albums that we always on that one. Well, it does. That one does remind me of being on tour in the early 80s. It was always one of when we still quite like it to interrupt each other.
I had to do a bit that, as I say, so it's annoying because
To be honest, without sound, I mean, I think probably my favourite video of all time, just because of, and not because it was without Paul or anything, I just thought it was a great video, and I mean, the money spent on it was unbelievable. I thought that video was fantastic. Yeah, it was a great video. Those two, Forever Live and Die was a great benchmark for us as well. Good video.
Made of all, yeah.
And I mean, Red Frame White Light may or may not be a good video. I don't know. You said you had a copy of it.
I do.
Well, come on then.
I need to get it properly copied actually, because I dare play it.
We're not fussy. Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, well, the act of actually playing it may destroy it. So. One of those is videotape will self-destroy.
I think it probably will.
The only particular show that you probably should do, because I was thinking there, but the Syndicate came out, wasn't successful. That's probably the best I've ever seen live.
Really?
Oh, it's just great.
Yeah, we were put one honey on as my fans and we were playing probably too many gigs then, but during that we did some really tight and some unit on stage. So yeah, I don't know that was. I mean, we did quite a few of the songs. I thought the Oxford Mountain tour was good. When we did Drury Lane,
I mean, touring was always just nerve-wracking. I was worried so much. I was expecting something to go wrong. But whenever it did go wrong, we dealt with it. But it was the nerves before we went on stage. So I always have very mixed feelings about it. I mean, I've got a lot of fond memories of it, but I've also got a lot of residual nerves about it. I used to worry about that. Yeah. I mean, again, both of us still, I'm sure, people get this. We still have, even to this day, I haven't gigged in years, I still occasionally get nightmare tour. Where, you suddenly find yourself on stage, it's like, but we didn't rehearse. Oh shit! And I still get them from time to time. And interestingly enough, it's always with the original 80s band. I think probably actually because the 90s band did rehearse more actually.
So you must have loved that moment on Bill Keys then when the power went and live on Radio 1.
Well, the thing about that is that I couldn't even say anything because there wasn't. Normally, if something breaks down, it's some frigging keyboard. And so you've got your mic to be able to say, sorry, normal service will be resumed as soon as, but it's like.
Was that strange playing in the afternoon?
Pardon?
Was that strange playing in the afternoon?
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's scary to look at you lot now. Imagine how scary it is to see 30,000 people in broad daylight.
Daytime gigs are horrendous. I remember when we did the Rose Bowl in Pasadena with Professor Man, and it was about 95,000 people. And we went on just before the festival, lots of bands on and we did. And just as it was going dark, I remember walking on that stage and we could see every face in the place. And it was like, whoa.
We started in Obligo with the drum machine, and just before Big Phil and the keyboards came in, there was a power spike. Took out all the keyboards. The emulators came up with that fabulous sign you don't want to see when you're standing on stage. This will take a while.
Starting to reload.
So me and Mally were doing the dub drum and bass version of this album to 95,000 people. Fuck you.
It seems to take forever to load.
What's one thing that's ever happened to you on stage? You've never forgotten words or anything?
Oh, I always especially the second bridge in Talking Loud and Clear. No, I think that the power going out of the Rose Bowl was pretty bad. But we had a few of them. We had a problem at Main Road with Simple Mind, we had a problem at Milton Keynes.
Well, not quite all of it.
Yeah.
My block trolley. Do you remember that? Yeah, but we didn't.
When you went put in the orchestra bit. See where you were going.
I thought the orchestra bit was there, but it didn't do a sound.
You lot have never forgiven me for the flags and the blocks and things.
What inspired you to do that? I mean, what you have to track first, or did you always have this?
Well, no,
in your head?
how are we going to do ABC auto industry on schedule? And we wanted to do it because we used to start to start with something kind of a bit interesting, and didn't know how else to do it. There's been. I mean, actually, where was it? Victoria Apollo, when the tape was lashed onto the tape machine with the back against the head. So we started Stanlow and we were like, hear it. And the audience started whistling and slow hand clapping, and it was just like, hear it, turn it up, turn it up. The tape was going backwards across the heads. Because all the machines were on the thing. Manchester Apollo, Newman. We didn't wind the tape back up the sound. Right in the middle of the message, just like. Hold on a minute. It's always technology that screws you up as well.
And apparently, the rain on the station actually was quite a few times.
Yeah, I've given those.
And apparently, the rain on the station actually was quite a few times.
Yeah, I've given those. Malcolm counting himself in wrong was another classic. All of a sudden, the bass synth or something would come in and all that. Stop, or should we just suffer? What are we going to do? See, Stuart Kershaw was clever on the Liberator tour actually, because he had a click, but he also had, but then we had the technology to do it because we had computers and samples. He actually had just before he was supposed to actually start playing, we could go tick, 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 and then he'd actually have a woman in his ear counting again. 1, 2, 4. Like, okay. Whereas Mally just had this incessant and if he missed a click, so it'd be like I'll start then. So that was quite smart of Stuart to actually have himself counted in. It's useful.
But it can quite often happen. I mean, the Islands Academy gig I did, we got the intro of electricity totally screwed up.
Okay, I'm glad you still do it.
Still screw up without you.
Andy, did you get asked? I asked Paul this. If you were asked to do the, was it Piggy Baby Well or something, that really awful thing that's on at the moment, and if they want some of yours, and recent some of the last 5 years that's current, and then
What did I tell you on the film today? We got asked to do it. So
You asked to do it?
Yeah. It was hard. It would be hard enough to learn an R&B song, but to do a cover of it.
Yeah.
that would be the final irony, wouldn't it?
The trouble is, I think Natasha Hamilton can sing those low notes better than me. Yeah, no, it was not something that I haven't even seen it, but I imagine it's familiar.
Looks really well. It's quite.
Yeah, but Somebody and Paul look really rough to you lot because you remember photographs of them from 25 years ago. So everybody forgets that they grow old and they just see other people and go, oh, did you see something? I haven't grown old at all, but so-and-so looks beautiful these days.
There's just where you sort of got these memories, so you don't
You
see
just
yourself
remember them as they were.
as they were, and so we see it on TV.
Forget time hasn't stopped
Yeah,
for them.
yeah. But not immortal, so you get
I wouldn't be watching it. I didn't even ask him. I just said,
He just
no,
said,
I'm not doing it. So
No, good choice there. Should be this one.
We were talking yesterday about some of the unreleased material Mike found to the album, and we talked about sessions he did in 87, 88. We both went off and did separate writing projects and came back and decided he didn't like what came back. So I asked Paul this question yesterday, so the same question again. I mean, can you remember some of the stuff you actually wrote, and was it really that bad? And was actually a lot of it?
I know I've got dats of a few things from that time that I'd written on my own when we were still all together. There is a completed track. I think Never Let You Go, which we all did in this studio.
It was Martin and Mal.
Martin and Malcolm did it. It had a sample of Ladysmith Black Mambazo, and I've got to see that. I've got a chance of that. Yeah, I mean, it's very. That's the last thing that all four of us ever worked on.
So what did it sort of sound like in terms of, was it sort of like, post-Pacific age, or was it more old school?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it actually had, it was, the samplers were coming in, the drums are very much the drum machine we were using at the time. The delicacy and musicianship of it was definitely, I think, where Paul and Martin Malcolm were going towards more with the listening board. Because they always were and still are actually better musicians. They were more prepared to actually indulge their abilities, whereas I'm actually like, I don't care what you play on. It's all about the tune and the thought. I don't care how tasty it is, and, So, but it's quite, it's quite swiftly produced and quite well played.
Do you think it's like a contender for the Unreleased material album?
Definitely, because it's one of the ones that's actually mixed with a full vocalise. And the funny thing is that one of the reasons why we never do it, so I've got 4 lines that are straight ripped off Brian Ferry in this song. Yeah.
You said that on that was Ben's just now with there was something.
Yeah. But maybe early Roxy music was a big influence. So, yeah. No, there's a line which I sing in that kind of same register, and it's not proud, not too ashamed to admit. I'm influenced by people who I'm prepared to rip off.
Is there any sort of unreleased stuff, Paul, that sort of you've heard that you think would benefit to be on the Unreleased material album?
Well, other than what we talked about?
Yeah.
I think I was just talking to Andy in the car. I've got some tapes that I was notoriously bad at marking up, which I think there's some stuff on, but you can't actually play them because they're too old. And as I was saying yesterday, you have to bake these tapes. Well, Andy's apparently got them, but not his oven at home, it's a special. So I think I can bake.
Just round the corner, you can see it from there. That grey oven round the corner there.
Well, you can bake the tapes and it puts the oxide back onto the tape and then you listen.
Because, of course, that's the same method that's used for the inversion of electricity, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I've realised now that it's actually, you send these things off to London and pay £300 for it, and you can actually do it yourself with the right oven. So I bought that oven on eBay for £32. And I got one of the young engineers who's just finishing at LIPA actually on the technology course. So I've got a great idea for you, mate, for your dissertation. Tape baking, right? Here's what we're going to do. Buy an oven, I'll give you these tapes, you bake them and write about it. So,
yes, I'm going to now go through these tapes now with this in mind, knowing that I don't have to pay £300 just to hear a tape.
Saves me money. But have you actually got any kind of working draft list of what's actually going on in your album?
No.
Is there a song called The Disco Sex Act? That's very intriguing title.
It's going to get released. It's going to get released by the Genie. We've had a change with them. They're not 3-piece anymore, they're 4-piece now. 2 of the main singers remain, and got a bass player and keyboard player. We've got a song that, we've already got a white label 12-inch out now, the cover version of Shannon's Love Music, which is done very well in a few places, and we've got some new mixes in. The next single, because we've gone kind of electro R&B with them, we've just decided with the whole pop thing, nobody wants to sign them the rest of the time, although the music is great. So Resistance Sex Act is going to be their second single. I played it to the girls and they slapped on. One of their fathers heard it and said it's great, but I don't want to see my daughter in the video. And also I played Paul, if you haven't heard the finished version, I played Paul a song, What a Girl Goes Through by the Genie Thing, which is a sound clash of Monica's Just One of Those Days and Souvenir by Owen, which will be one of their singles.
Really good.
A resisted sex act is going to be great. I finally found a vehicle for it. It would have been very good to be
Have you ever thought about doing your version of Strangers? That's the most OMD Sonic Kitten.
Yeah.
I think your interpretation of that is quite an interesting thing.
I mean, it would have to. The thing is, though, that song was put in a key for Liz to sing. I think it's possibly my favourite Sonic Kitten song. It is possibly the most OMD-like of their songs. And the real strings on it are fabulous, but I don't know. I'd have to change the whole thing. But it's funny because I never sang any of their songs because they were always the keys for them, to which I couldn't sing. It's like it would be painful. Totally wrong key, but yeah, it was. I've never sung it, but it would be nice. Yeah, I thought about it. It's one of my favourite songs.
So you take the value of Pole again and how big that was, and you wrote it in your song, having that version of that on, similar things that people in this room, it sort of gives a link, a lineage of the whole thing.
I mean, that is a song. I mean, one of the reasons why it goes down very low in the verses is because originally the verses were spoken, and that song is one of the very few songs that the key never got shifted in. The girls could sing the chorus, and I can sing that chorus in that key. But the verse was always spoken, just like the third verse. The first two verses used to be spoken, and then it was changed. And how Natasha gets those low notes is amazing. Because it was written in a key for me to be able to do, and when it was spoken, it was easy. But she's quite remarkable to get on that low. Very well. Vodka's obviously working. Any more for any more? Or should we do some photos and things like that? Okay.